All right, here we are, huh, guys and girls. Tuesday, May 26th, the last Tuesday of the year. Oh, a lot of rain today, huh? Definitely needed it. And 80 degrees tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow, Wednesday, 6 to 7:30, if you're interested, there's the end of the year parade at school. So I'll be there. Hope to see everyone else too. So in the meantime, I'm going to read two chapters again today to you. We have chapters 39 and chapter 40 for you today. Chapter 39 is called Lies and Dreams. Lies and Dreams. Here we go. Hideki led Kamiko, Masako, and the children on a zigzag path up muddy hills and down blasted valleys, but always north toward the illumination shells and the gunshots and the explosions. Why are they going north into all that stuff? That's my question. Toward home. Hideki, Kamiko, and Masako pulled the last of the children up the top of the steep ridge. They stopped to take a breather, but something about this particular place made Hideki's skin prickle. He motioned for the others to be quiet and stay where they were, and he crept down the other side of the ridge, holding on the tree stumps so as not to slide. And there it was, a Japanese army machine gun nest. It was pointed north toward the direction of the advancing Americans would come from. Hideki was standing on a hill above the nest, where the Japanese soldiers inside couldn't see him. But they would see Hideki and the others when they passed by, and the soldiers would likely shoot them as spies or for running away. Hideki snuck back to report his findings to Kamiko and Masako. "Why can't we just go around them?" Kamiko asked. "Head west for a while and then turn back north." Hideki shook his head. "If there's a nest here, then there's nests up and down this ridgeline to the west and the east. This is the new defensive line. If we don't find a way past this machine gun, we'll just have to find a way past the next one." "What do we do?" Masako asked. "I'll take care of it," Hideki said. "Give me 5 minutes. Then take the kids over the ridge and down through the next valley. I'll keep the machine gunners distracted." "How?" Kamiko asked. Hideki shrugged and headed back down the ridge. "I'll think of something." "Use your grenade," Masako hissed. Hideki considered it again. His last grenade, the one the IJA had given him to kill himself with. The fragile ceramic thing had survived the whole awful battle. All he had to do was chuck the thing through the hole cut in the hillside, and the machine gun nest would be destroyed. So would the soldiers who operated it. Then Kamiko and Masako and the children could slip safely by. Hideki thought he saw something moving out of the corner of his eye, and he glanced sideways at it. But no one was there. Hideki put a hand to the stitches under his hair and wondered if he was sensing the ghost of Ray, or was his head wound was playing tricks on him. Either way, it was a stark reminder of what had happened when you threw grenades at people. He would just have to find a different way to distract the soldiers. Hideki returned to the hill above the machine gun nest and took a deep breath. He had to make this work for Kamiko and Masako and the little kids. "Yokai!" Hideki said, loud enough for the soldiers inside to hear him. "What?" someone called from the bunker. "Who said that? Who's there?" "Yokai!" Hideki said again. "You don't sound like a ghost," the soldier called back. He still couldn't see who was talking, and Hideki could hear the rising panic in the soldier's voice. "Yokai is the new password," Hideki said. "I'm from headquarters. You're supposed to give me the response." "Response? We don't know the response," the soldier called up back. "Nobody tells us anything out here." All right, Hideki said. "I can tell you're Japanese. I'm coming down." Hideki scrambled down the muddy slope and climbed into the tiny machine gun nest. There were only 2 soldiers there, both Japanese army privates. Their clothes were muddy and oversized, like the men had shrunk in the rain, and they each had scraggly beards that showed just how long they had been alone. The bunker reeked of sweat and urine, and there was 3 inches of water on the floor. Between them stood a Type 92 heavy machine gun. How long had Hideki been gone? Was it already 5 minutes? He had to hurry. Kamiko and Masako and the other kids might already be moving by now. Private Hideki Kaneshiro, Blood and Iron Student Corps, Hideki said, saluting them. Lieutenant Colonel Sano sent me. It wasn't exactly a lie. Through the window of the bunker, Hideki caught a flash of movement. It was Ray's ghost this time. It wasn't Ray's ghost this time. It was Kamiko, Masako, and the kids. They were out in the open, where the machine gunners could see them if they looked. Hideki slid around to the back side of the cave, so the soldiers had to turn away from them to see him. What's the message? One of the soldiers asked. Yes, the message, Hideki said. He hadn't thought that far ahead. Ideas swarmed in his mind like flies, but none of them landed. Behind the soldiers, one of the children slipped in the mud and fell, and Kamiko stopped to help him up. The Yamato, Hideki said. The big battleship is coming to save us. What? We heard it was sunk, one of the soldiers said. No, that was just a rumor started by High Command to fool the Americans. The Yamato is still floating and will soon chase the American Armada away, so more reinforcements can land. It might have been a tall tale, but it was one of the 2 soldiers desperately wanted to believe. They laughed and clapped each other on the shoulders. As life came back into their faces, Hideki saw how young they were under those beards, barely older than he was. Behind the soldiers, Kamiko and the others were still visible, climbing a long, low hill. Where are you from? Hideki asked, trying to stall for time. Hiroshima, one of the boys said. I was going to go to the university to study chemistry, but then I was drafted into the army. I'm from Iwaki, the other boy said. My father and I were fishermen before the Navy confiscated our boat. Then he and I were both drafted. He's in Korea now. The 2 soldiers were quiet for a moment, remembering the people they used to be. Their lives got interrupted by the war, just like mine, Hideki realized. It was easy to think of the soldiers as the ones doing the interrupting, as the people had come to disrupt the peace of Okinawa. But neither of these boys had volunteered for this. They both had things they'd been doing, families they longed to see again, plans for the future. All that had been taken away from them, too. Do you have any food in that pack, Private? One of the soldiers asked. Hideki's heart fluttered at the offer of the perfect new distraction, until he remembered he and the others had already eaten everything he had. I'm sorry I don't have any food, he told them, but I do have cigarettes. The look on the soldiers' faces told Hideki he was their new best friend. Hideki took his time emptying his pack to look for the cigarettes and stole a quick glance outside. Kamiko helped the last of the children over the hill, and they disappeared into the darkness. Hideki smiled with relief, and he relaxed. He didn't have to keep the soldiers' attention any longer, and his thoughts turned to how quickly now he could get away and rejoin Kamiko. What's this? One of the soldiers asked. Hideki had taken the oilskin pouch of photographs out to find the cigarettes, and one of the soldiers had picked it up and was looking inside. Oh, that's pictures, Hideki said, though the soldiers could clearly see that's what they were. Pictures of dead soldiers and their families, he thought, but he couldn't say that. The soldiers lit cigarettes and flipped through the pictures, studying the faces and the places. With each image of their long-lost home, the mood in the bunker became more and more melancholy. Why do you have all these? One of the soldiers asked. Hideki couldn't explain Mabui, couldn't explain Ray, not here, not now. He said instead, Well, the American ones were in a pack I took from a soldier after he was dead, after I killed him. The others, soldiers gave to me for safekeeping. The soldiers might have understood that the men who gave Hideki the photos were all dead now, but they accepted the little white lie. The two young men smoked their cigarettes and thought of home, and Hideki sat awkwardly, itching to get his pictures back and leave. I should get back to headquarters, Hideki said at last. The soldiers nodded and handed him back the pictures. Hey, can I give you a picture too? One of them said. He pulled a wrinkled, water-stained photo from his jacket pocket. He hesitated, reluctant to let it go, and then he handed it to Hideki. It's me and my mother back in Iwaki, he said, for safekeeping like the others, you know, in case the Yamato doesn't come in time for us. Me too, the other soldier said. He gave Hideki a picture of him and his sweetheart, a pretty young woman who lived in Hiroshima. They knew, Hideki realized, they knew the Yamato was a lie. If not his lie, then somebody else's. That the dream of victory was just that, a dream. The reality was they were all going to die here in Okinawa, and soon. And Hideki and his sister and the children were going to die with them if they couldn't get past the American army next. All right, that was chapter 39. Next chapter is called Lion Dogs. You know, it's interesting. At the beginning of this book, Hideki was considered to be a coward, right? It was his mabui that caused him to be, like his sister said, a scaredy cat, right? Question I have, do you think Hideki is a coward, okay? Or do you think he's brave? I think he's come a long ways. Lion Dogs, chapter 40. Hideki hadn't walked too far when he found Kimiko, Masako, and the children all hiding behind an exploded Japanese truck. To their left, Hideki could hear the roar of the sea, and to the right, a steep rock cliff rose like teeth from the ground. Sorry you had to wait for me, Hideki said. We didn't have a choice, Masako said. She nodded for Hideki to follow her, and together the two of them crawled through the mud to a bend in the road. Just beyond them was an American camp. Someone, either the Americans or the Japanese before them, had cut down trees so that they fell across the road. And the soldiers guarding the camp stood behind the log barricade, facing north. Behind them, Hideki could see other soldiers at a cook fire they had sheltered from the rain. Hideki made a frame with his fingers. There were at least 10 American soldiers, including 2 guards, so close Hideki could hit them with a rock or a grenade. The American camp couldn't have been more than a few dozen meters from the Japanese machine gun nest Hideki had just left. It was almost dawn, and as soon as the sun rose, the American soldiers would advance south and run right into the young Japanese soldiers. They would fight, and the Americans would win. They always won, eventually. But in the meantime, Hideki and the others would be caught in the crossfire. They had to get past the Americans before that happened. Hideki nodded for Masako to turn around, and together they returned to where Kimiko and the children waited. Well? Kimiko asked. The Americans are taking up the whole road, Hideki explained. There's no way to sneak by without them seeing us. What if we went out in the water and swam around them, Kimiko suggested. Hideki shook his head. If they see us in the water, they'll think we're a Japanese attack force, and they'll start shooting us. Do you still have that grenade? Masako asked. Well, yes, Hideki said, but I can't kill them all with one grenade. There's too many of them. We don't have to kill them all, Masako said. Just a few of them. We throw it from the ocean side to make them think the Japanese army is attacking from the beach. While they're shooting at shadows, we run right behind them along the road. Then we're safe. Hideki pulled the grenade out of his pocket, weighing it in his hands as he walked off by himself. Masako's plan was dangerous, but it could work. He'd seen the Americans when they were angry. They were like the shisa, lion dogs. When they got something in their teeth, they shook it until it was dead. They would destroy the beach with machine guns and mortars and grenades, and then go down there with rifles and bayonets to make sure there wasn't anyone left. That's when Hideki and the others could slip by. Kimiko joined Hideki, leaving Misako with the children. "What are you thinking, Hideki?" his sister asked him quietly. Hideki tried to put it into words that they hadn't been able Hideki tried to put into words the way he hadn't been able to when Misako wanted him to use his grenade on the others, on the mother of all bombs. The way he'd felt when he decided not to use his grenade on the Japanese soldiers in the machine gun nest. "I'm thinking that this isn't our fight," Hideki told her. "It's not between Okinawa and America or Okinawa and Japan. It's between America and Japan. Why can't we just let them duke it out?" "Because Okinawa is caught in the middle, just like we are," Kimiko said. "All this time, people kept telling me, 'This is your island, you should be defending it,'" Hideki said. "But I wasn't defending it. I was fighting for somebody else's side while they both destroyed my home. And I'm tired of it. I want to be on Okinawa's side for once. So use the grenade on the Americans to save some Okinawans," Kimiko told him. Kimiko had a point. If he used the grenade here and now, he could lead them all to safety. Misako, the children, Kimiko, that's what he'd really promised his father after all, wasn't it? Not just to find his sister, but to keep what was left of his family together. To live. And sometimes you had to fight to live. Maybe he needed to fight to save Okinawa too. The thought of fighting made Hideki remember all the awful things he'd seen each side do to each other. The awful things both sides had done to Okinawans in the name of war. "No," Hideki said. "No. If we attack them, we're their enemy. When they're not under attack, when they're not afraid, the Americans are human beings. They actually helped me. They gave me medicine, and they sewed up my head." It's the same with the Japanese. The photographer, my principal, my teacher, they were all nice to me before the Americans came. That machine gun nest back there, it didn't have 2 monsters in it. It had 2 human beings. But if I threw this grenade at them, they would have been turned into monsters, just like these Americans. They'll become monsters that breathe fire and bullets. They're not at war with Okinawa. They're at war with Japan. But if I throw this grenade at them, they'll be at war with Okinawa too. "Okinawa is Japan," Kimiko said. "Are we?" Hideki asked. Kimiko was quiet for a time, then said, "We have to do something, Hideki." Hideki stared at the grenade in his hand. If he didn't use his last grenade here and now, when would he ever use it? And that's when he knew what he had to do. All right, we'll stop it there for today, huh? Chapters 39, chapters 40. Not too many chapters left. Today's Tuesday. I'll definitely have it done by the end of this week. All right. Hopefully this gets uploaded quickly, and you can maybe even be seeing it by tonight, huh? And we are, 18 minutes and 42 seconds in, almost 20 minutes worth of reading and talking today. So, all right, hope everyone's having a great rainy day, huh? Take care. Bye.